Okay, so while people are just joining us live today, I'll get started just by introducing myself. My name is Laura Egan O'Brien. I'm the marketing manager for the College of Engineering and Architecture here in UCD. I want to welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today is the third in our virtual TalkRad event series that we've been hosting, and today we'll be hearing from Professor Eoin Casey, who is head of school for our School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering, and we'll also be hearing from Associate Professor Amanda Gibney, who is head of school of our School of Civil Engineering here in UCD. They're going to be just giving you an overview of the top master's programs available in their respective schools, while also giving everyone a chance to ask any questions that you might have about your application, any queries that you might have around the programs themselves, or anything like that. Also for the Q&A part, we'll be joined by my colleague Katie O'Neill, who is the Senior Marketing Manager for the college here in UCD, and that some of you may have been in contact with as part of your application process already. We'll also then, for the Q&A part, if you want to type us any questions, you can just use the Q&A button, which is on the control panel at the bottom of your screens. Just type them there as they come to you, but we'll leave it towards the end to actually answer the questions for you in case your academics cover any of the topics that you're querying. For the best viewing experience today, just make sure that your screen is in speaker view mode, which if it's not already, you can toggle in the top right hand corner of your screen. And then lastly, just to let you know that we will be recording the session today, and I can share that with you after the event in case you want to revert back to that at any stage. I think we have a good proportion of our attendees with us now, so we might get started and others can join as they come in. First up is Professor Eoin Casey, who, as I said, is the head of school for our School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering.
Okay, thanks Laura, and hello everybody, and thanks for taking the time today to listen to what we have to say. So, as Laura said, I'm head of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering in UCD. I'll tell you a little bit about context, a little bit about our school before I talk about the programs. So chemical engineering in UCD was founded in the 1950s. So we're the oldest and the largest school of its type in Ireland, and we're ranked #1 in the QS rankings in Ireland. We also have a really strong international reputation, with many of our graduates working internationally at very senior levels. So our graduates have an excellent reputation among the large global companies. Within our school, we would consider ourselves research intensive. All of our professors are research active, working in two broad areas that I want to just highlight. One of those is in biopharmaceutical engineering, which is all about the production of biologics, such as medicines and vaccines and things like that. And then the other area is what we call energy transition engineering, which is all about the kind of process engineering aspects of the transition from fossil-based energy to the future, which would be based around renewable energy technologies. So within the school, all our faculty are research active. They're at the forefront of their fields. They are published in the best journals, speak at the best conferences internationally. So that's important for us, because it means that the students who come into our programs get, as part of their educational experience, they're getting taught by professors who are at the forefront of these areas. And then the programs I'm going to talk about today, biopharmaceutical engineering and chemical engineering, that's really important in terms of the context. Two of our programs are in biopharmaceutical engineering, so I'll talk about those first. I mean, it's the same program, but delivered in two completely different ways. So the program we established, I think, about somewhere between 10 and 15 years ago, as we saw a change happening within the pharmaceutical industry, not only in Ireland, but globally, a move towards chemical synthesis over towards biological synthesis. So many of the world's biggest and largest used drugs at the moment are biological entities, as opposed to chemical entities, or rather they're produced using biological processes. So they're quite complex entities, and they're quite complex to manufacture. We're not really interested in our programs in about the discovery of those drugs. We're interested in how they're manufactured. And that's really important because these are really, really complex, expensive processes to achieve. Ireland is well known as a global hub for the manufacturing of biologics. There's been something in the region of 10 billion euros of capital investment in Ireland over the past decade or so in the construction of new biological manufacturing plants. And most of the world's leading pharmaceutical companies have a major manufacturing base in Ireland. So there's huge job opportunities, and it's growing very fast and will continue to grow very fast. The industry body in Ireland, IBEC, have talked about growth figures of, I think, something in the region of an additional 10,000 jobs coming on stream in that sector over the next few years, with something like 75% of those jobs requiring people with university level degrees and higher. So we established our biopharmaceutical engineering programs in response to that. So I'll tell you a little bit about them. The programs are designed for people who don't necessarily have an engineering degree. You can have a science background, technology background, or an engineering background. Both programs have options in them. So depending on whether you've got a science background or an engineering background, you can choose certain modules to suit your needs. I suppose just in terms of the two programs, one is a full-time one-year program, and in that program we would have a mix of Irish students and international students, and again a mix of people with different backgrounds, science, technology and engineering, all of them wishing to upskill and move into positioning themselves for job opportunities in this really buoyant sector of biological manufacturing. The part-time version of the program is, although it involves the same content, it's delivered in a completely different way. It's delivered on, the students on that are students who are already working in industry in Ireland, and they do it as a part-time option on Friday afternoons from 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock, I believe, so over a 2-year period. Both programs involve a design or a research or a design project. And the part-time program involves a project that's undertaken in collaboration with the industry where the person is working. I think if we go back to the full-time program, as I say, it's been running for more than 10 years now. It's been quite successful. It's built up a reputation among the employers in Ireland and indeed internationally. I was just talking to the program director the other day about statistics in terms of employment, and she tells me that everyone who wanted a job in the biological or biopharmaceutical sector got a job. A small number of students wanted to do research and they went on and did a PhD, and a small number of students wanted to return to their home country if they were international students. But of everyone else, everyone who wanted a job in the sector got a job. So the employment prospects are really excellent. Some of the companies include the likes of Pfizer, Regeneron, Amgen. And these are just examples of the kind of companies that are having major manufacturing facilities in Ireland and provide excellent opportunities. As I say, the part-time program is undertaken for people who already, I suppose, have a job and are wishing to upskill within their present their present employer, or just to develop the skills to ultimately be in a position to move within the sector if they want to do so. I mean, as Laura said, we'll be happy to take questions at the end if people have specific questions. But I just want to move on now just to briefly talk about the third of the programs I wanted to talk about within chemical engineering. And this is the NGESC in chemical engineering. This is a program designed for people who already have a chemical engineering degree. And we would probably call it advanced chemical engineering is probably a better name for it, because the students undertake both advanced chemical engineering modules and they do an advanced research project as part of that. And I suppose UCD having such a global reputation for chemical engineering, and because of the really strong links we have with industry and a very strong graduate recruitment engagement between the school and between the industries, means that the students, again, from this program who want a job in the sector in Ireland have been successful in getting jobs. Some have gone on to do advanced research, doing a PhD, for example. But again, because of our reputation, we found that students have been very employable from this program as well, have been able to get job offers from various places. So that particular program is, as I say, geared towards people who already have a chemical engineering and want to do a year of more advanced level chemical engineering. Within the program, some of the modules, if you look at the brochure online, you'll see the type of modules and courses that we do. Plus, we also do a research project, and the students will have a choice, depending on what their interests are, of doing a research project with one of the professors in the area that the student is actually interested in, working on a particular research topic. I won't get into the details of the modules within that course, but we'd be happy to take specific questions from anyone who's interested in that. So I think that's it for me. I think I've covered the three programs, and as I say, I'd be happy to answer any specific questions people might have. So I'll pass back to Laura now.
Right, thank you very much, Eoin. I hope our attendees find that very, very useful. So I think we'll move on now to our civil engineering part. Amanda's going to speak to that. As I said at the start, this is Associate Professor Amanda Gibney, and she is the Head of School for Civil Engineering.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks very much, Laura. And very nice to see you all today. I want to talk to you about the School of Civil Engineering first of all, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our programs that are available, our Talk Masters programs. So the School of Civil Engineering, the civil engineering itself, the discipline celebrated 100 years of the discipline at UCD recently. The school is expanding and currently has 17 academic staff who are all proactive researchers. The research that's being undertaken in the school would include things like structural dynamics, earthquake engineering, wind flow, computational dynamics, structural health monitoring, things like behaviour of soft soils, other material behaviours, concrete highway materials, transport policy modelling, and transport behaviour. So that's a flavour of the kind of areas of research that we're involved in the school. In terms of our students, we have about 100 undergraduate students, around 50 or 60 taught graduate students, and then we'd have about 35 graduate students working on masters and PhDs, mostly PhDs. Our students come from all over the world, and currently we would have about 25% of students who are non-EU students. In general, our offerings would deal with design, construction and maintenance of the physical and natural environment. And that would include the design of bridges, buildings, roads, dams, earthworks, work relating to water resources, the management of water resources. And I suppose if you think about everything that you see around you, the contribution civil engineers make to society is quite substantial. So you can see that both in urban and rural development, in the supply of safe water, flood development, flood protection measures, and in the transport infrastructure. You see that quite a lot around you. In terms of being with us and studying with us, the kind of typical academic week for both undergraduate and taught graduate students would include lectures, tutorials, laboratory sessions, group design projects, and individual assignment work as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about our assignment work and assessments as well. So in terms of our taught graduate programs, what we aim to do really is to develop further your ability to kind of identify problems and to solve complex civil engineering problems. With all of our master's programs, we'd have a significant research project, and that enables you to develop many skills. Well, I suppose, first off, really to design and conduct experiments mostly, but also in terms of your oral communication and verbal communication and written communication skills as well that you develop through writing a report and presenting your work as well. I suppose these skills as well that you develop through your work with us also would be key attributes that you would need for lifelong learning and professional development. So for the kind of society that we live in, which is ever changing, and we've seen that quite a lot over the past weeks. The other thing which is important to know really is that in terms of what you might progress on to, I suppose the fact that you would be undertaking a very numerous kind of a program, and you'd be developing your problem solving skills, this will really develop the aspects you need to develop your professional aspects for your career in civil engineering, both design and construction, but also then in terms of maybe policy development, project management, business and finance, amongst other areas that you might want to go into after studying with us in terms of 12 master's programs. In terms of kind of assessment for our programs, we would have a combination of continuous assessment throughout the trimesters and also then end of trimester examinations as well. You would undertake individual assignments, practical laboratory work and group projects, and these are complemented by things like leadership roles, interacting with undergraduate students, series of presentation, written thesis, as I mentioned before, oral examination for your report. So these strategies, they develop your written and oral skills, your communication skills, and also your leadership skills. So those are the skills that you require as a professional engineer. We have Master of Engineering or ME programs, and we have Master of Engineering Science programs, MNGSC programs. With all of our ME Master of Engineering programs, we would have an opportunity for you to undertake an 8-month placement or work placement in industry. And what I'd just comment to you about that is, I suppose, all of our students wish to take that placement. And oftentimes, when students have taken that placement, by the end of that placement, they'll be made an offer by the employer to come back to them when they finish their masters. So it's a good opportunity for both the employers and for the students during that 8-month placement. They get responsibility, they get to see what the company is like, and they have the opportunity then maybe to return if they get an offer as well. So as I say, that would be an opportunity in all of our Master of Engineering programs or ME programs. So I'm going to firstly talk about our ME programs. So there are 2-year programs, 2-year master's programs. The ME in Civil, Structural and Environmental program, Environmental Engineering, the program coordinator of that program is Associate Professor PJ Purcell. So this is a 2-year professionally accredited taught postgraduate program suited to civil engineering graduates with appropriate learning up to a BSc, Honours BSc level in civil engineering. The program provides advanced learning in the fields of civil, structural, water, highway and geotechnical engineering and environmental engineering. Within this program, you have significant choice of modules across all of those areas of civil engineering. And as I said before, then that the learning includes lectures, tutorials, studio work, group project work, and the 8-month placement is an opportunity or an option for you as well. The next program to talk about is the ME in Structural Engineering with Architecture, and the program coordinator for that program is Associate Professor Arturo Gonzalez. Again, this is a 2-year professionally accredited program suited to civil or structural engineers with an appropriate prior learning in architecture. So there's appreciation of architecture within this program and an understanding of how structural engineers and architects work together through the design process. So we do require any students coming into this program to have a prior learning in architecture in addition to civil structure or structural engineering. So it again provides advanced learning in the field of structural engineering, coupled with the study of architectural modules, innovation leadership, and professional engineering management. So you'll be challenged to formulate, analyse and solve complex structural engineering problems, and you will also have a significant engineering research project as well. So you'll develop the skills to conduct experiments and apply standard and specialised research tools to solve an engineering problem, particularly related to the area of structural engineering in this case. Now, the third ME I want to talk about is the ME in Civil Engineering, and I'm the Programme Coordinator for this programme. It's a 2-year Master's programme. The first year of study is undertaken in UCD, and the second year of study is undertaken in Columbia University in New York. So graduates from this programme, they obtain a master's degree from both institutions. And for this programme, the fees are directly paid to the institution where the student is studying. So in the first year, students will study structural design, geotechnics, water engineering, and again, there's an option of an 8-month work placement in the spring and summer trimesters. There's a requirement to maintain a 2H1 performance, so a second-class honours grade 1, and also have a faculty recommendation in terms of acceptance then to Columbia for the second year of the programme. Now, the other ME programme, which is an option for students of civil engineering, is the ME Civil Engineering with Business. And this is a programme which is actually run by our mechanical engineering programme, our mechanical engineering school. In terms of the civil engineering part, so you would take your core civil engineering modules in the School of Civil Engineering. You would also then, so the core engineering would be in civil, structural, water, highway and geotechnical engineering. And then you would combine that with core modules in business and management as well. Okay, so those would be our suite of 2-year Master of Engineering programs. We do have 2 MNGSCs, so Master of Engineering Science programs, and these are 1 full calendar year. So it's taught across the autumn, spring and summer trimesters. So the first one of those is the MNGSC in Structural Engineering, and the program coordinator for this program is again Associate Professor Arturo Gonzalez. So this is suited to graduates of either civil or structural engineering undergraduate program, and who wish then to pursue or specialise in the area of structural engineering. So there'll be a combination of core and option modules, and also then a research topic again. So the research project in this case for the full calendar year master's programs will be undertaken primarily in the summer trimester, with background work undertaken in the trimesters before that. So you have an option then to tailor your learning to choose modules that best suit the area that you want to specialise in within structural engineering. You would also then study professional engineering management, energy systems and buildings, and environmental assessment management as well. The other programme that we have, again, a Master of Engineering Science, the MNGSC, is the MNGSC in Water, Waste and Environmental Engineering. And the programme coordinator for this programme is Assistant Professor Fiachra O'Loughlin. So this programme focuses on the concepts of water, solid waste, solid waste treatment and environmental protection. So you've analysis, design and management of treatment facilities, including flood protection measures, flood protection systems, they're included in the programme. So you develop the ability to collect, synthesize and evaluate and analyse data. And again, in addition to this, you develop clear oral and written communication skills through the programme. And students on this programme would work on a research project on the area of environmental research throughout the year, but primarily, as I said before, the work would be undertaken in the summer trimester. In terms of the kind of type of work that students from our programmes would opt to continue into, they would usually continue into consulting engineers or contracting engineering, or they would opt to undertake further study. The kinds of the kind of employers that would typically employ our students would be ARP, RPS, O'Connor Sutton Cronin, ESB International, Jacobs, Project Management Group, and so on. So there's just a selection of those. But typically our students would progress on to, as I say, consulting engineering or contracting engineering. They may go into public agencies either, or research, as I said before, or they may go into other areas such as business information technology, project management or financial services. Okay, so hopefully that's given you a flavour of the programmes that we have on offer within our Taught Masters suite. I'll hand back to Lorena.
Right, thank you very much, Amanda. Again, I hope our attendees found that very useful. So now that we've had both our academics give us an overview of the programmes available in their respective schools, I think we'll throw it open to our attendees to ask us any questions that they might have. And we have some in now, so let me just unmute everyone and start. Great. So let's have a look. So one of the questions that we've just got in and that we've got in some of the other sessions that we've had last week as well, is just around the current circumstances with COVID-19 and obviously the impact it's having on our current students and our prospective students. If either Amanda or Eoin, you want to speak to maybe the current situation for our students and what's going on with our current students, and then maybe Katie, if you want to just talk a bit about you know, some information for our prospective students. Katie,
Yep.
you have to go first.
I'll go first if you want to. Yeah, certainly from our current students are all studying from home at the moment. So lectures are online, and so we're using Zoom and other communication methods through our virtual learning environment as well. So all of our examinations will be online and assessments are being submitted online at the moment. So that's the way we're, I suppose, progressing this year.
Okay, so I guess from our incoming students, it is a very valid question. UCD is currently continuing to make preparations to welcome our students in September as usual, but we are also considering some precautionary options. So that would include some flexibility perhaps with arrival dates or potential for some online teaching in the first semester. However, like everyone, this is a very fluid situation and we're responding to the updates that we're receiving. But we do have a page where we are updating with any relevant information, and I'll pop that URL up in the questions and answers or the chat box so that you can access it. And as I say, this is updated about every 2 or 3 days, so it is really worth checking. But at the moment, we are preparing to welcome our students in September as normal. However, as I say, we are making sure that we have alternatives should that situation change.
Great, thank you very much. Moving on to the next question. Obviously, a lot of our students are looking to do top masters with us, but ultimately some students may want to go on to do a PhD program within UCD also. And if Amanda, you want to start, speak to from within the civil engineering department, how students might go about looking for a PhD after their masters.
Yeah, I suppose that the best thing to do is to talk to the professors that are in the area that they're particularly interested in studying. And you know, all of our profiles are on the website. Students can take a look to see the areas of interest of each of our staff members, and certainly there's no problem in having a chat with any of those, and then to try and formulate a project statement to look at what kind of research objectives or area of particular interest they want to look at.
Right, and Eoin, I would imagine in the School of Chemical and Bioprocess there would also be opportunities for research and PhD for anyone who's interested.
Absolutely, yeah, it's a good opportunity. Sometimes PhD supervisors find it very useful when they're taking on new PhD students to have a student who's undertaken a research project within UCD to see how they, you know, very often our research is laboratory based. So students who do the master's programs do, you know, a 3-month research project, and so they're in the lab. It gives an opportunity for the professors to see what the students are like in the lab, but it also gives a student an opportunity to see what research is like. It gives them the confidence to know whether, you know, they want to do a PhD. I mean, people want to do a PhD, but sometimes it's not until they've actually done some research in a laboratory that they actually, you know, kind of helps reinforce that for them, or in some cases changes their mind. So yeah, so it is not unusual for people to move on to a PhD.
Great. And Eoin, just sticking with yourself, we've had a question from a student who has been offered a place on our MNGC Chemical Engineering. Obviously, through their research, they're seeing that some courses elsewhere in this particular area are 2-year courses, and maybe what sets our program aside it being a 1-year course, or the differences that they might find.
Well, ours is a 1-year course, 90 credits, 30 credits in each trimester. I can't comment on 2-year courses, but clearly, I suppose if you're spending if you're interested in working, in getting a good job in chemical engineering, well then it's probably better to do a 1-year course than a 2-year. The job market, despite the current pandemic, is still good, and we expect the job market to, particularly in chemical engineering, to remain quite buoyant. So if you do a 1-year course, clearly you're going to get out into the job market quicker than if you take a 2-year course. So that'd be my opinion.
And Amanda, just for our MNGC Water, Waste and Environmental Engineering, we have a student just asking, does that include an internship?
That's a 1-year master's program, so it doesn't include an internship. No, it's our 2-year master's programs that we have our 8-month internship program.
Great. And then just sticking with the internship, I know I've got questions before from students who maybe aren't familiar with how our internships operate for our 2-year master's courses, and maybe if yourself and Eoin could speak to the process that our students go through when they're securing their internship.
Yeah, so usually in the first trimester, the autumn trimester, students will, if they're interested in going on the work placement, they'll consider what employers are looking for students for internships, and they'll put together their CV and apply for these to the different employers. So they usually have a number of interviews during that first trimester in the autumn trimester, with a view to then going out on placement in the January trimester, between January and August. So once they've had some interviews, and if they're made an offer, then they accept an offer and they would go out then in January. So that's particularly, they would have assistance obviously during that first trimester in terms of how to build your CV, looking at interview skills and that sort of thing. So they're helped along the way in terms of CV preparation and preparing for interviews as well.
Thank you, Amanda. And Eoin, I would imagine it would work in a similar process for our School of Chemical and Bioprocessing.
No, our ME programs, our ME program is different to all of the other engineering programs. So we generally don't take in students to the ME. They come in via first year as part of the 5-year program. Our structure of our internship is a little different as well. It's 9+3. It's typically 12 months, including the research project. Starting in January, so it's a little different. As I say, nearly everyone, and absolutely, I think everyone who's done it so far has come in via first year undergraduate engineering. So it's just a little different for us.
Great. We've also just had a question about obviously a student in relation to the COVID-19 measures that we've put in place, maybe having difficulty paying their application fee payment, or the visa process might be a little bit confusing or complicated at the moment. For that particular student, I just advise them to send myself or Katie an email afterwards, and we can discuss your options with you. I think that's the best way. But as Katie pointed out before, we will put the link to where you can find more information about the current circumstances and what our prospective students should be doing, and that'll be updated regularly, so I just keep an eye on that, as Katie had said before. Another question just around, obviously for most of our masters, they have a summer project or research project that would be part of their curriculum, and if Amanda or Eoin want to speak to, can those projects be done in collaboration with industry, or is it more a research project, and can it be a lead on from maybe the internship they did if it was part of their 2-year program?
We've had students doing projects which were a lead on from something they were interested in when they were on their work placement, and they would obviously have the support of the employer then throughout that project, as well as having an academic lead as well for their project. So they'd have a supervisor both in UCD and perhaps within the industry that they were in as well, employer. The students can undertake a research project within something that might be of interest to them, and also one of our academics as well. So either, if a student has a particular interest, we'll certainly accommodate them to undertake a project in that particular area. So.
Great, thanks, Amanda. And Eoin, then I know you mentioned earlier that for the part-time biopharmaceutical, a lot of those people are obviously coming from industry themselves, so they will do that research project within their own companies. But for students maybe on the full-time program, is that also an option that they can do it within industry?
So it's no, it doesn't involve industry for people on the full-time program.
Okay, great. And then just there was another question around industrial project on a one-year course. And as Amanda mentioned earlier, for any of the one-year programs, the content can be quite a lot as far as the modules that you'll cover. So though unfortunately there's not an industry placement as part of the one-year programs, only on the two-year programs. And then Eoin, just this question around for our current third-year students who are obviously doing chemical and bioprocess engineering, but they're not doing the biochemical minor, which would be the most appropriate master's integrated path for them students?
So if I understand, they're currently in...
Yeah, a current third-year student.
Current third-year students, well, they have a choice. Well, if they have a choice of exiting with the BE program or the ME, or doing the ME program, we designed the programs in such a way that both programs, both the BE and the ME, are accredited at the full level by the Institution of Chemical Engineers, leading to potentially chartered status. So both options have professional accreditation at the top level. In terms of biochemical engineering minor versus chemical engineering without the biochemical engineering minor, the difference isn't enormous, really. So really, the minor gives the students the opportunity to take a few extra modules and to do maybe their design or research project in areas that are more biotech focused. So, I mean, if the student is in UCD already, then happy to contact me directly, send me an email, and I can maybe talk to them one-to-one.
And then just sticking with yourself, Eoin, for the part-time pharmaceutical engineering, obviously the structure of it is very different than our full-time program. For this particular student, if they want to email me afterwards, I can send them a sample timetable. But Eoin, if you maybe could talk about the structure of the part-time program, maybe how it differs from the one-year full-time.
Yeah, as I say, it's designed for people. I mean, we had the program operating basically within the full-time program, whereas people from industry had to come in during the week, Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. It just wasn't working for them because, their employer wasn't able to give them the opportunity to leave work. So but 2 years ago, we redesigned it in such a way that the students come to UCD. Well, in fact, they come to NIBRT, which is the National Institute for Bioprocess Research and Training, which is on the UCD campus, from Friday afternoons from I think 2 p.m. or 2 p.m. I think it is onwards. So it facilitates people coming from working from industry. Generally, employers facilitate people leaving work that earlier on the Friday afternoon. The modules, a lot of the modules are the same, but they're delivered separately. There's because of the timetable being on a Friday afternoon. Sometimes in blocks of 4, where a particular course is delivered by the same lecturer 4 weeks consecutively, and then that module is assessed at the end of the trimester. The project then will be done. Now, sometimes students have particular needs. I mean, in some cases, although it is a 2-year program, there are opportunities, or depending on need, for people to do it over slightly longer than 2 years. We won't advertise it as such, but again, for people who absolutely need to do it over that long period. I think in the past as well, we've had people who've, for various reasons, had to exit before the 2 years, and there's options there for getting a certificate or a diploma, but that's quite unusual. But generally, we introduced the program to meet the needs of people who are actually working full-time, so that they can actually do the course. As I say, it's over 2 years. It follows the normal UCD timetable, being that 12 to 15 week period from September until Christmas, then from mid-January onwards until the exam period, April, May. And then we don't do the lectures during the summer, so then for the second year it'll be this autumn trimester, the spring trimester, and then the research project during the summer. I don't know if that answers the question, but again, I'd be happy to talk to anyone one-to-one if they have.
No, I think that's great, Eoin. And as I said, for that student, if they want to email me directly, I'm more than happy to send them a sample timetable from previous years also. Amanda, we also have some part-time programs within our School of Civil Engineering. A question I get asked also is how feasible those particular programs are for students who are working full-time, and maybe the structure of those particular part-time options.
Yeah, well, currently the way the part-time options run would be that the students would select modules and they would take them at the same time as the full-time students. So lecture times can be across the week, so maybe part-time students may need to have 2 days a week where they're attending lectures, and those 2 days might change from the first year to the second year, for example. We have had a number of students who haven't taken our programs part-time. With full-time working, obviously, it is tricky. It is a heavy load, but certainly people have managed it in the past.
Thank you, Amanda. And then also, because your respective schools are some of our smaller schools within engineering, obviously the class sizes in both your programs will be quite small. And could you speak to some of maybe the advantages of this in your particular schools?
Yeah, I suppose one of the big advantages is that we would get to know students well. The students would be certainly would have no problem asking questions during the lecture time, and obviously people would be available after lecture times to ask questions as well. The other thing I think that students find is that they get to know their classmates quite well as well, across not even just their program but other programs as well within the school. So it is quite a collegiate school, certainly from that perspective.
And Eoin, it would be the same for your school also?
Yeah, it would. 20 to 25 students typically. Some of our courses, like the design project or some of the courses involving computer simulation, students will be broken down into groups and working in groups, things like that. So yeah, it's deliberately, we deliberately limit the number of students on these courses to that sort of size, so that we can maintain that good student learning environment of having class sizes that are rarely more than 25 students.
And we have another question from an attendee also, Eoin, particularly this is for you, a student who's interested in solar energy conversion and maybe work on dye synthesis solar cells, not something I'm familiar with, but for our chemical engineering masters, is that something that they can be involved with or something that they will get covered?
Yeah, as I say, the students who do that one-year masters, their research project does give them the opportunity to do a research project, and we do have Professor Ravi Tampi, who's Professor of Solar Energy Engineering. So he's an expert in the area that you just mentioned. So he'd be somebody who does research in that area and does teach courses that are relevant, plus also there may be opportunities for doing research with Professor Tampi.
Great, thank you. And just reverting back to the previous question was a typical class size for particularly the MNGC Biopharmaceutical full-time program? Between 20 and 25 over the last number of years has been the typical size. Great. And then also, is there any particular faculty members that are working in the field of stem cells and stem cell manufacturing also?
Yeah, so this is the area of advanced therapeutics. The area of regenerative medicine and things like that. So we have a strong link with NIBRT, I mentioned it already, National Institute for Bioprocess Research and Training. And we have a number of faculty who have joint appointments with NIBRT, 3 at the moment and a 4th on the way, who split their time between NIBRT and UCD. NIBRT has plans to expand into advanced therapeutics areas such as gene therapy and cell therapy. And I think the question there is relating to cell therapies, which is the next big wave in biopharmaceutical manufacturing. So we are very aware of that and aware of the need that Ireland as, you know, in terms of as a state, we're ready to produce graduates who are familiar with those areas. So we're hopefully bringing in a new module within the course in the next I can't say when exactly, but probably in the next academic year, that will cover that material so that the graduates going out into industry are prepared for that. Even though the manufacturing base isn't here yet, it is expected to come over the next decade. So we're very much aware of that, and we're working with NIBRT to ensure that we have the courses, the modules within our programs to ensure the students are prepared for that area.
Great, thank you very much. And Amanda, if you wanted to maybe mention to some of our students the exciting research that's going on within civil engineering also at the moment. Yeah,
I mentioned some of the areas earlier on in terms of the earthquake engineering and flood protections mechanisms. A lot of work going on because we have a lot of soft soils here in Ireland, so there's a lot of work going on looking at embankment performance and the soft soil development as well, looking at constructing things on soft soils. Wind flow is another thing, so computational fluid dynamics, so looking at the wind flow around buildings and modelling that, how buildings will perform, depending on how close they are, or whether there's opportunity for wind tunnels between them, that sort of thing. Structural health monitoring as well, so looking at how vehicles interact with bridges and what kind of behaviour you have in terms of how the bridges might perform, depending on what the traffic loading might be. Structural health monitoring of buildings and other kind of structures as well would be another thing that a number of our staff in the structures area would be working on as well. In terms of materials, then we'd be looking at development of new materials in terms of concrete or additives to concrete, looking at bituminous materials, so flexible pavement materials as well, and development of new materials. So those would be kind of a flavour of the type of research that will be happening within the School of Civil Engineering.
Right, thank you both. I think that's all the questions that we have from our attendees at this time. So I'll just finish off by saying thank you to Eoin, to Amanda and to Katie for joining us today, and thank you to everyone for participating in the event. As I said at the start, I'll follow up with the attendees afterwards with some useful links to resources that we have available, similar to the ones that Katie would have put in the chat. And I'll also send you the recording from today if you need to revert back to it at any stage. So that's us done. Thank you very much again for participating, and we'll sign off there. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.